MAAC this evening, and I want to go around and have everybody introduce themselves just briefly, and any associations with organizations that you have related to transportation would be appreciated. Let's see. I'm going to start with council members. I'll call your first name if you could unmute and then introduce yourself. Rob Dooling. I'm not hearing your interpreter.
Can you unmute 585?
Yeah, I didn't think I'm not.
Okay, you have the interpreter. 1 second.
Rob,
can you hear me now?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Interpreter.
Okay, hi, my name is Robert Dooling, so I'm a council member.
Thank you, Robert. Rob, I think if you mute your phone, I think your phone on with him on, maybe we have to mute it. There's a interpreter. I think he has to mute his phone. He can turn on. So otherwise we're getting feedback between the two of you, him having his phone on so close to his computer. So one of those has to be turned off. Finish?
So I've already got the computer and the phone muted, so I don't know what's causing the echo. And this is the interpreter. I'm muting and unmuting myself on my system.
Please listen, interpreter. It's Rob's phone. Can you please ask Rob to mute his phone between you two and just use the visual portion of it? That's what I think.
Yes, this is the interpreter. I do understand, and I'm explaining that to Robert.
Okay, Rob.
Is that better?
Yes, at this point. Thank you. Okay, Buddy, you want to unmute?
Yes, Buddy Moore, member of the MAAC, also the outreach coordinator for the Bernice Fontenot Senior Wellness Center located in Ward 1.
Thank you, Buddy.
Thank you.
Our new council member, Thomas, can you unmute and introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Thomas. I'm chair of Project Action. One of the chairs, we got 2 chairs, and we got 2 vice chairs. So in case you meet with Carter Thornton, he's the other chair. I serve on a lot of committees. I serve on some committees with DDS, Department of Human Services, and I'm on some others, and I'm glad to be on this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. And I don't think I introduced myself as Heidi Case. So I apologize. I am the chair of the MAAC. Those are the council members that we have on at this moment. So I'm going to continue to go around. Rachel, would you like to unmute and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Case. My name is Rachel Goss. I am a commissioner on the DC Commission for Persons with Disabilities.
Thanks for joining us, Rachel.
Thanks for having me.
Leonard.
Oh, my name is Leonard Stevens, and I'm Project Action Advisor and Consultant, as well as DDS Peer Support Specialist as an intern. And sorry for the delay because I had to get a little snack and that's it.
All right. Thanks for being on, Leonard.
You're welcome.
Kevin?
Hi, Kevin Schlosser, DC Autonomous Vehicles Association.
Glad you're here. Heather just jumped on. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Heather Foote. I'm an older adult transportation analyst.
Okay, thank you. Matt McCullough?
Good evening. I'm with ODR, the ED Compliance Office. We work a lot with DDOT, and so Susie McFadden-Resper is an ED specialist that focuses on transportation. You will hear from her later. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Matt. Samuel Brooks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Samuel Brooks. I'm with the MAACDC team at the District Department of Transportation.
Great. It's good to have you. Susie, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, hopefully you can hear me. I've been having a problem with my volume audio. My name is Susie McFadden-Resper. Hello, everyone. I'm with the DC Office of Disability Rights. I'm the ADA Compliance Specialist for Public Works.
Thank you, Susie. Wendy?
Hi, Wendy Cloncher with the Department of For-Hire Vehicles.
Glad to have you, Wendy. Mr. Blake?
Yes, Christian Blake. Good evening, everyone. Christian Blake from WMATA with Metro Access and Fixed Route Services. Thank you for having me.
Glad you're here. Moshi?
Good evening. My name's Mo Pasternak. I'm the chair of the ANC 2B Mobility Committee.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Shayna?
Hi, everyone. I'm the administrative support analyst for the MAAC.
Okay. Nana?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nana Bailey Thomas, and I am the Chief Transportation Equity and Inclusion Officer for the District Department of Transportation. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I think that's everybody. Did I miss anyone?
Did you get Caesar?
Of course. How could I forget? Caesar, please.
Good evening, Cesar Barreto. I'm the ADA coordinator with the District Department of Transportation.
Otherwise known as my right hand. So, of course, thank you, Caesar.
No problem.
Right. Next on our agenda, we have the approval of the meeting minutes. Those were sent out with the invitation to this meeting for the last month's meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the meeting minutes from one of our council members? Rob, I'm seeing him.
Yes, I will approve the previous meeting minutes, and I really want to thank our new assistant who's doing a great job right now.
Yes, she is. That's you, Shayna, so thank you.
Okay.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, buddy. Do we have any discussion about the meeting minutes or any corrections that anyone thought we needed? Okay, they were actually excellent. So hearing none, everyone, all those in favor of approving the minutes, can you say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Hearing none, the meeting minutes pass. Okay, usually we move on to old business. The first item is to swear in our new and swear in one of our repeat council members with MODA, but at the moment, Caesar, do you see them? I don't see anyone from MODA on the meeting yet to do that.
Yeah, the invitation was submitted. I sent 2 emails to Ms. Bakri, and I also called her, and I have not received a response. So I'm waiting for them to respond back. Hopefully they can join us. I think we can move on to the next item of the agenda until further notice.
Okay.
Agreed.
They did contact you this morning though, right? And said
Correct.
you'd be on? Okay.
Correct. They contact me this morning to confirm Mr. Mangrum and Mr. Moore's attendance.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
Madam Chair, they also contacted me
Good.
stating that I should be here, yes.
Okay, thanks, buddy.
Okay.
Thomas?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Mr. Moore from
Yeah.
Armada, could you please check it out and see what my status is with the board with Armada, please?
Thomas, let's
Yeah.
go with the agenda. Mr. Blake, I think
I know, but I've been having trouble trying to find people. That's the reason why I asked them.
I know.
I didn't mean to interrupt anything. I was just doing it because I had a problem finding people.
I hear you. And Mr. Blake, I think Mr. Mangum applied to be a member of the AAC at some point last year and has never heard back, so.
Right, because I got the
We'll
interview.
follow.
They interviewed me.
Okay.
Okay, we'll follow up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The next item on the agenda, and we'll put this aside, if the MOTA people come on, then we will move back and go ahead and get the swearing in taken care of. The next item on our agenda is our MAAC much awaited web page development. We are excited to finally going to be working on having our own web page, and our new assistant has been working on that. And she previewed a couple of different companies that we could purchased from to set up our webpage on their platform. And we came down to two between Wix and Squarespace. And we have looked at that, all the council members. And does one of you want to make a motion as to which one we all decided to go with?
What were the two that we have, Madam Chair?
Yeah, I hate it to be leading. We had between, that's okay. I understand the names one was Wix and one was Squarespace. And we had recommended Squarespace, and some of you have looked at all the information about it. And I know Phil Sclover, a council member who was unable to be here tonight because he had some health medical issues to take care of. He also previewed it and felt like Squarespace was a good match for people with screen readers. And that was the one, Squarespace. So I'm going to go ahead and see if we have a motion to pay for Squarespace to be our webpage platform.
I'll make a motion now. Yes, Madam Chair, I move that we pay the cost of Squarespace
platform,
yeah.
Okay. Do I hear a second? Rob, could you second? Yeah, okay. Was that Rob?
I second.
Thank you, Rob. Okay. Any discussion on the matter? Okay. All those who agree to use Squarespace as our web-based platform, can you please signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we will move forward to purchase Squarespace platform to further develop our web page, and we will let everyone know when we are able to preview our website. And maybe some of you can be initial, may choose to pilot and look at it first and give us any feedback. So we'll get you information about that through our mailing list. So thank you. We're going to move on to new business.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Caesar.
This is Caesar. I noticed Mr. Stephen Walker just joined us, and I believe he's from MODA.
Great.
So we can move to that point of the agenda now.
Okay, Mr. Walker, hello. We are glad you were able to join us. And we want to go back to the swearing in of our new member and our returning member. So let me hand that over to you and you go right ahead.
Yes, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and apologies. I was stuck in a different Zoom.
Okay.
And I switched to a different computer and now I think, okay, good. I've been trying for the last 10 minutes to get my video. There we go,
Well,
the magic.
we can hear you and see you now.
There we go. It's all in one place. I spent the last 10 minutes trying to get on my iPad here. It had me in someone else's room and they finally came and said, I think you're in the wrong room. Oh,
okay.
My apologies. I hope everyone's having a good meeting and I'm sorry if I held you up so far.
No problem.
But we are really excited to always have people join and come back to the Multimodal Advisory Committee. So who's being sworn in tonight, Mr. Moore and?
Yes.
Mr. Mangrum, Thomas Mangrum.
And I see Mr. Moore.
I'm here.
Thomas Mangrum is up on the very top in my screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see if I just
He has a
change.
green background.
Yeah, I just need to change my video. So I,
Sometimes you might have to, it's in two different screens because there's 20 of us on, so.
there we go. So let me just change the view here to go.
Yeah.
There we go. Now I see him. There we go.
Okay. All right.
The reason I had to do that is because I have to be able to see the person that's being sworn in.
Sure.
The challenge that we have with the current situation that we're in is we're all in, it looks like 20 different places right now instead of one room during this meeting. So thanks for accommodating us. And I'm really glad to be able to swear you in today, Mr. Moore and Mr. Mangrum.
Okay. Sure.
And so I'm going to have both of you, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to stage a photo because I have to have a photo of it. So I'm going to have you raise your hand while I take a photo of you.
Okay.
Right hand. And just hold it for me 1 second while I take a photo.
I can take this cap off if you like.
Oh, no, you're good, Mr. Moore.
Okay.
Okay, ready, 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Now keep your hands up and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Clarence Moore,
Thomas Mangrum,
Having been appointed as a member of
having been appointed as a member of
the Multimodal Advisory Committee,
the Multimodal Advisory Committee,
do solemnly swear and affirm that
do solemnly swear and affirm that
I state your name.
I, Clarence Moore,
Lucius Thomas Mangrum Jr.
Will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the laws of the District of Columbia,
and the laws of the District of Columbia,
and I will perform the duties
and I will perform the duties
that may be assigned to me
that may be assigned to me
as a member of this board
as a member of this board
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
without fear or favor.
Without fear or favor.
I will exercise my best judgment.
I will exercise my best judgment.
And consider each matter before me.
And consider each matter before me.
From the viewpoint of the best interest.
From the viewpoint of the best interest.
District of Columbia.
Of the District of Columbia.
As a whole.
As a whole.
And I will faithfully discharge these duties.
And I will faithfully discharge the duties.
Congratulations and thank you both.
All right, thank you, Steve.
Virtual handshake. Mr. Moore, probably the third commission that I've sworn you in on. So
yes, you were.
Continue to come back.
Okay, thank you.
I see Mr. Dooling is here and Trinity says hello to you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you all very much and thank you for your hard work.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty,
Thanks, Steve. All right, Steve.
Thank you very much, Mr. Walker. We appreciate your
Absolutely. Great to see all.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Yep, great.
So that was positive. Now we're going to move on. We got done with all our old business. Moving on to new business. The first item is the MOVE DC public outreach. It's phase 2. we have Samuel Brooks here from DDOT, who is going to lead us in the discussion of what's going on with that. And then we'll open it up for questions or comments to Mr. Brooks. So you go right ahead, sir.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you. I do have some slides to share. It says the host has disabled that. Is there a way I could share, or I can run through them verbally?
I think we may have to.
Go ahead. You should be able to now.
Okay.
Yes, there we go.
Okay.
All right. Is everyone able to see a presentation there?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes, great.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, members of the council, for giving DDOT an time this evening to present on our MAACDC 2021 update. As Chair Case mentioned, my name is Samuel Brooks. I'm on the MAACDC team at DDOT and with the State and Regional Planning Division. I'll start by speaking a little bit about DDOT and the MAACDC plan. DDOT manages, maintains, and improves the multimodal transportation infrastructure in Washington, D.C. Its mission is to equitably deliver a safe, sustainable, and reliable multimodal transportation network for all residents and visitors in the District of Columbia. I'll also note multimodal here simply refers to any of the numerous methods that we use to transit around the district. On this slide, we've got a picture of one method for transiting, a bike lane.
Cool.
So what is MAACDC? MAACDC is the District Department of Transportation's plan that sets a 25-year vision for the transportation system in Washington, D.C. It fulfills the federal requirement to develop a long-range transportation plan, and it is used to guide and prioritize investment and development throughout the district. It is required to be updated regularly, and the initial plan was completed and published in 2014, and the update is set to be released in 2021. How will MAACDC affect you? The plan influences transportation investments and improvements, including public transit, bicycle and pedestrian amenities. And I'll note that this includes both the current existing amenities we have and maintenance of them, as well as the installation and construction of new amenities. It also affects traffic congestion, air quality improvements, and equity. In short, it prioritizes when, where, and how the city will implement transportation changes, and helps DDOT make trade-offs in the use of public roads and sidewalks. It is DDOT's intention that equity manifests in all of the goals and policies of MAACDC. Equity is a foundational driving factor that undergirds the plan and process. DDOT's definition of equity includes 4 key areas: participatory planning and decision-making, shared and just system outcomes, attention to historically under-resourced communities, and overcoming existing disparities. This slide shows a timeline of the MAACDC update process. In the fall of 2020, we completed the first phase of public engagement on the plan, where we asked members of the public to respond to our draft goals and policies. We also collected input on draft mobility networks, which I will speak about more in short. Currently, we are underway with phase 2 of public engagement. During this period, we are asking members of the public to respond to the strategies and metrics that DDOT is proposing within the plan. I will speak more about those in a moment. We are currently conducting outreach activities for phase 2 that include updating the information on the MAACDC website, stakeholder engagement with the different community organizations around the district. We have a survey live online and via telephone through the end of March. And we're holding 2 virtual town halls. The second town hall will occur tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. We are also holding telephone office hours every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. to ensure members of the public with less access to the internet or a preference for speaking on the telephone can share their opinions as well. Now I will briefly describe the framework of the Move DC plan. It starts with 6 high-level goals, for example, safety. Those goals feed into specific policies, such as designing transportation infrastructure to improve safety for all, focusing especially on most vulnerable roadway users. Now, what we are asking the public about in phase 2 are the strategies that DDOT will pursue to specifically accomplish these goals. For this safety example, one strategy could be implementing at least 20 intersection improvements per year. And finally, those strategies feed into metrics, which are how DDOT will report on an annual basis its accomplishment towards these goals. I will briefly discuss the Move DC activities to date now. During phase 1 of public engagement, DDOT received over 4,200 completed surveys and 7,300 open-ended comments provided through the survey. We highlight these open-ended comments in particular because we found them to be a great way for DDOT to better understand the specific trade-offs in different members of the public's views. They were incredibly helpful in incorporating new mobility maps, which I will show you in a minute. We also received 43 comments via email and telephone, had over 100 attendees at 2 virtual town halls, and received over 2,800 comments on our draft mobility priority networks. What we heard in phase 1 relating to goals and equity was significant affirmation with high ratings of the 6 goals we proposed. These 6 goals are safety, mobility, management and operations, project delivery, sustainability, and enjoyable spaces. We also heard that equity was a high-level concern for members of the public and should be incorporated in each of the goals in the plan. During the fall survey, we also asked members of the public to allocate a hypothetical budget of 10 coins between 5 different modal priorities. And what this graph shows is that transit received the highest average allocation of this hypothetical budget with 3.1 coins. This was followed closely with the bicycle mode and the pedestrian mode, each with 2.4 or 2.5 coins. This leads me into the mobility priority networks, which I mentioned earlier. These are maps which show district streets on which DDOT will invest in safety and mobility improvements for specific modes of transportation. There are 3 maps, 1 map each for transit, bicycle, and freight. The goal of these maps is to make it easier to move both people and goods on district streets, enhancing safety, efficiency, connectivity, and access. I will note that the networks do not indicate specific projects or improvements, but that DDOT will use these networks to guide future decisions related to project identification, design, and development. During the fall period, these mobility priority networks were presented for public review and feedback. Users were able to select, I like this, I don't like this, or add this to specific segments on the different maps. I will run through 2 of them now. The first is the Transit Priority Network. What you'll see at the right is a map of the District of Columbia. In red lines are the currently existing transit priority corridors. These, in their current form, represent bus lanes. Now, the blue lines on the map represent areas where DDOT expects or would like to install future transit priority treatments. And these will be installed with a priority to move transit vehicles more efficiently and improve travel times and reliability for passengers. Some of these transit improvements could include either dedicated transit lanes, improved and better transit stops, or special treatment for buses at intersections. Similarly, you'll see on this slide the bicycle priority map at the right. In dark green is the existing network of bicycle lanes throughout the District of Columbia. In dotted green are the future funded improvements. These are improvements that either are included in DDOT's 20 by 22 initiative or in our 5 mile per year bike lane goals further in the future. The dotted purple lines on the map indicate corridors that DDOT has identified as suitable and desirable for improvements, but has not yet identified funding for them. In some cases, we must note that certain streets have been identified as priorities for multiple modes. DDOT notes that creative solutions will be needed to address these overlaps in determining planning and design for future projects. Some examples of this could be providing dedicated lanes for one mode and alternative priority treatments for another mode along the same corridor. Finally, I want to discuss pedestrian priority. During the first round of public engagement, we heard a lot of comments and questions about how MAACDC will be treating pedestrians. The goal for pedestrian infrastructure in the district is to have a safe and connected sidewalk network on every street. Therefore, in lieu of a map, DDOT and the MAACDC process is addressing pedestrian priority in a few ways. At the right, you'll see a map of the district that presents what we call a pedestrian friendliness index. The darker purple areas on the map note areas where it is more safe and comfortable for a pedestrian to walk. Lighter pink areas note areas where it is either more difficult or more unsafe for a pedestrian to walk. And DDOT will be using this along with our missing sidewalk map to identify improvements that need to be made over the next few years. I'll also talk briefly about transportation needs within the district. What is a transportation need area? These are areas of the district where there is need for improvements based on 3 main factors: proximity to frequent transit, access to jobs and destinations, or proximity to safety risks. Now, the purpose of these transportation needs is to bring together multiple elements of MAACDC, specifically the areas of safety and mobility and the integration of equity. It provides guidance on where there is the greatest need and opportunity to improve. On this slide, you will see a draft of the transportation needs map. And what it shows is areas with the greatest transportation need are shaded in darker purple, and areas with the least transportation needs are shaded lighter. Now, considering equity with this map is incredibly important, because what we have found is that the areas with the greatest transportation needs in the district contain higher concentrations of historically marginalized people. For instance, among residents in areas with the highest need, 81% are people of color, compared to 64% within the entire district. The geographic distribution of needs has disproportionate effects on our communities and will require DDOT to be intentional and inclusive as we advance the MAACDC plan. Now, lastly, I want to go through some of our draft strategies so you can get a better understanding of what we are asking the public to comment on during this phase 2 engagement. I'll briefly remind you again that the framework of the plan is goals feeding into policies, policies into strategies, and strategies into metrics. The first strategy example we have is implement 20 at minimum intersection improvements per year. Typical improvements could be a leading pedestrian interval, so pedestrians start crossing the street before cars move, improved turn phasing, and the elimination of dual turns. What this would mean for you is increased safety and visibility of pedestrians at intersections, reduced risk of crashes, slower vehicle maneuvers, and reduced conflicts with pedestrians. Another strategy we are putting forward is to create a transit priority network by implementing a total of 25 lane miles by fiscal year 2025. And this would mean a more reliable and on-time bus service, faster bus trips, and for dedicated bus lanes, the potential displacement of vehicle lanes or on-street parking. And on this slide, there is a picture of a bus lane. Another strategy relates to improving access to transit. This strategy is identifying transit deserts in the 2021 update to define and develop specific planning steps that DDOT can take to address and improve access to jobs and opportunities. What it means is that if you don't currently have high frequency transit service near your home, school, or place of work, DDOT will look for ways to provide it. It would also mean the ability to travel to more jobs and destinations within a 30-minute trip. What you'll see at the right there, although I know it's very small, is a map of our walk sheds to high frequency transit within the district. Blue being a walk shed to a bus stop and red being a walk shed to a rail station. Another strategy is that upon completion of 20 miles of protected bicycle facilities by fiscal year 2022, DDOT would install 5 miles of protected bike facilities annually. This means increased safety for bicyclists throughout the city and improved connections between neighborhoods. On this page, you can see 2 photos of newer bike lanes that have been installed in the district over the past 2 years. Our second to last strategy is enhance walkability and neighborhood amenities by meeting the goal to cover 40% of the district with a healthy tree canopy by 2032. What this would mean for you is reduced flooding on sidewalks and streets, better local air quality, and reduced temperatures within the district. This has a photo of a street in Georgetown with a rather full tree canopy. And then lastly, we do want to ensure equity in DDOT projects. The strategy here is to develop and implement an equity scorecard for DDOT projects, and to use that scorecard to identify equity deficiencies and then improve the scope of work for the project to address the identified deficiencies. What this would mean for you is more collaboration with district residents from DDOT and their communities, and transportation spending allocated to historically under-resourced communities and those with the greatest needs. And that brings me to why we're here tonight. We are hoping to hear from you as we conduct our second phase of public engagement. There's a lot of information on this slide about how to get involved, but our survey is live. And as I said, our survey is live through March 31st. This can be taken on our website, which is wemovedc.org, or it can be taken by calling our hotline number at 202-599-7371. As I mentioned earlier, our hotline hours are each Thursday in February and March from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. But you can also call that number any other time and leave a message with your contact information so a DC or a DDOT staff member can return your phone call. Again, our website is wemovedc.org. You can find all the information on Move DC there. And with that, I'll take a breath and look for any questions. I will also stop sharing my screen so we can all see one another.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, I think you're muted.
I apologize. I just
It's
wanted
okay.
to make sure, buddy, you can go first. But
Okay.
I wanted to tell everybody that everybody is welcome to give input to Samuel, not just council members. We want to hear from everybody. So please just raise your hand or let me know that you want to speak. So we'll start with Buddy. Go right ahead, sir.
Yes, Samuel, thanks for coming and updating us on what is happening with DDOT and the survey. My question is, if you took the survey earlier, can you take it again?
It's different.
Do you mean you took the survey last fall, or you took the survey already this winter into spring?
Boy, that's a good question. Is Heather on the line? Heather would know when I took it. Heather?
The last one. I think you're talking about the last one, Buddy.
I think so, yes.
Absolutely. So yes, this is a new, different survey. We would really love to hear from you during this survey period as well.
Okay, great. And my second question is, you talked about, I guess, streets that appear to be more walkable, I guess, in a certain area of the city. What makes one area more walkability than another area? Is it design of the street? Is it the quality of material that is used when they're building the street? What's the difference?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And I think you're referring to our pedestrian friendliness index.
Yes.
There are a lot of data points that go into that. Some you already mentioned. Yes, the quality of the pedestrian elements in that area definitely are a factor, but also the complexity of intersections that pedestrians have to navigate, the setbacks of buildings from the street. Is that pedestrian forced to walk very close to vehicular traffic, or is there a nice wide space for them?
Sure.
Also, the density of blocks and areas tends to be much more walkable when you have small blocks that allow numerous turns and intersections for a dense urban environment.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Who else would like to? Heather, I heard you start to speak. Did you want to say something or ask a question?
I think Heather's muted.
She accidentally muted herself. Now she's got it.
Okay, sorry. I made a mistake in my own flyers in not pointing out that this was a new survey. And so it has led to some confusion. I don't know. I don't know to what extent DDOT can control IT, but it might be helpful to indicate that this is a new survey. And in my own flyers, I've changed that. It is a new survey. I haven't taken it yet, but it is new.
Okay, great.
Great comment. Thank you, Heather.
Okay. Does anyone else have issues? Yeah, Rob, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, hello. I agree with Heather. I saw the survey on social media last week, but I thought I already took it last fall. I do need to take it again. But now I realize I should take it again.
It's a different survey.
Yes.
And we actually had input on maximizing its accessibility, the plain language, and some other things that made last fall's one a little more challenging for some people with disabilities. So we hope that this will be more user-friendly. So we certainly hope everybody takes the opportunity, however they want to give their input. But this is a good opportunity to talk to DDOT about issues that you're concerned about or problems. So feel free to raise your hand.
Madam Chair, this is Caesar, really
Yes.
quick. I just want to point out, as your ADA coordinator, if you need assistance filling out the document, I'm more than welcome to assist you. Just in case, if you do have an accessibility issue component, please don't feel free to reach out to me. I'll contact you with Sam's team, the MAACDC team, and make sure that you are able to input and give your data. We want to make sure that we can do that as well. I want to make sure that everybody knows that too.
Hey, please. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Great. Anyone else have comments or thoughts? Rob, go ahead.
Hello, Sam. Thank you for the presentation covering so much about equity and how we can improve that east of the river. I'm also wondering if they're going to address climate in it, because I did see a mention of climate change.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Yeah, well, let's see. Wait, Rob, Sam, did you want to respond to Rob?
I actually just didn't quite catch the second part.
Did you heard the survey, the MOVD plan include climate change, global warming, flooding?
Absolutely. That one of our high level 6 goals is sustainability. DDOT does recognize that transportation represents one of the most polluting sectors in America. So our high level goals do focus on ensuring we improve our environmental impact citywide.
Leonard, did you have your hand up?
Actually, I did, considering about building flood plains in flood-prone areas. Well, how are you going to fix the one in Bloomingdale when it comes to that?
That's a very good question. MAACDC is a policy document. The idea is that this is our highest level 30,000 feet document that will be used to influence project designs and plans moving forward. I'm aware of some other departments that are concerned and working on specific projects to improve the flooding issue in that neighborhood, but it's not something I can speak to specifically based on the MAACDC plan. That said, the MAACDC plan's goals are to influence in a positive manner the environmental factors going around the city.
Okay.
Buddy, did you want to jump back in?
Yes, let me jump back in. And I think I heard information in reference to intersections. Can you speak a little bit about what types of intersection changes you plan to make?
Certainly. So across the city, you know, we have many different just styles of intersections. You've got traffic circles or intersections that have more than 4 roads. So re-engineering complete intersections that have shown to have safety issues is one manner through which we will try to improve pedestrian safety. Another is slightly smaller changes we could make. For instance, restricting intersections to only have 1 left turn lane rather than 2. It's been shown that that second left turn lane adds a vision block to drivers coming around that turn. They can really cause more problems. So there are some and then actually one of the easiest ones, or one of the most general that DDOT could make, is in simply installing a leading pedestrian interval sign. That means the pedestrian walk sign turns green before the light for cars turns green. What that means is that pedestrian has the extra few seconds to get out into the roadway, allowing drivers more time to see them.
Okay, great. Thanks.
This is Heidi Case, and I just wanted to say, you talked about trade-offs, and you know, I've discussed this in the last time you presented it, but there are different people here in case it sparks others. But one of the trade-offs that I think is, you know, very pending sort of issue is with the desired safety for bicycle lanes to be next to curbs. There's the trade-off of all the people and vehicles that want curbside access. And, you know, there's a big trade-off, and I don't know, I'm hoping that someone's going to figure something out that is yet to be figured out, and that we are going to create more and different options to solve that. But do you want to say anything about how that, you know, there are different groups that, you know, the bicycle lane, I mean, they need and want safety. There is But there's also the access to curbs that people with disabilities, freight, TNCs, taxis, etc. Do you want to say anything about that, or?
Absolutely. DDOT is hyper aware of the numerous uses of the curb that are all needed and are often all needed along similar corridors. They all relate to safety and they all relate to accessibility and numerous other factors. We fully recognize that a Metro Access van needs access to that curb just as much as a cyclist wants to be protected by a parking lane from moving vehicular traffic. You're absolutely right that this is a significant area of trade-offs that the district is facing, especially with input from numerous groups that all need access to that same curb. Some of the ways that I know we are thinking about this is working with communities to identify parallel corridors so that no one area is completely removed from access to the curb for any one group. But you're absolutely right. That is one of the most talked about areas through which DDOT needs to identify ways to ensure equity.
I have a second real quick. I just want to, if there was so much in your slide presentation and it's hard to take notes in our meeting minutes, I wonder if you could just make sure and send a copy of that to Caesar so that we can include it with the email when we send out to people so that if they want to take the time to look at it, they have it.
I'd be glad to.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, really quick, this is Caesar. I want to have also an update in regards to your question. I think I mentioned this in our December meeting, but we are working with a bicycle design guidelines internally in DDOT that provides our engineers better guidelines as we speak right now. We're talking about now, functionalities for now rather than the MAACDC plan. The MAACDC plan is towards a 25-year goal, right, Sam? Sorry. But at the same time, we're working internally to provide guidelines that address these issues that you are mentioning. And we're trying to expedite the approval process to get those design guidelines to the team at ASAP.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment or share thoughts or ideas with Mr. Brooks while he's here?
Yeah, this is Thomas.
Go ahead.
Have y'all had plans when it comes to the sidewalks, making the sidewalks more accessible? I'm a wheelchair user, and like you know, making the sidewalk accessible is more besides having a curb cut. Can we go down the sidewalk to get to the other end? And why not, when we get to the other end, is there a curb cut? Street lights, trees that pull up the ground, or what have you, effects, or whatnot, stuff like that. So, and then potholes, whatnot. So a lot of times I have went down a block and I had to turn right back around and get into the street, or what have you. And then there's some neighborhoods that don't have any sidewalks at all. So you got to be in the street. So I have led caravans of cars before because I couldn't use the sidewalk or was no sidewalk to be used. So have y'all thought about that?
Okay.
Absolutely. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. That is considered in the MAACDC plan. The consultant team developed a map of every area in the district that is missing a sidewalk, either on one side or both sides of the street. Now, I believe that also notes sidewalks that are in disrepair. And that is a document that is going to be used and considered as project managers put forward projects in any area of the city in the future to ensure that when work is being done in a certain area, it could also add the addition of a sidewalk or the maintenance of that sidewalk if it's in disrepair.
Okay, so the crew will automatically look at that while they're working in the neighborhood, right?
It would happen before the crew is actually on the ground. It would happen during the design process and be kind of folded into the scope of that project. But the intent of that is to ensure that that equity lens is there when a project is being designed, and that any considerations of transportation needs that are present in a neighborhood are folded into the project as it is implemented.
Okay, thank you.
This is Heidi Case, and I wanted to actually appreciate, for example, on the 14th Street, when we, the bus lanes, all of that was done. One of the things that you did when you redid those sidewalks was all the businesses that had stepped up into the businesses, you built ramps for. And I am eternally grateful. There are stores that I had never been into in my life and been able to get to as a wheelchair user. And I love that that was a part of fixing the sidewalks, is making those storefronts and businesses accessible. And I mean, that's a really nice amenity that went along with that. So just some kudos and appreciation for it.
We're glad to hear that. I'd be happy to pass that along to the project manager.
Definitely nice. Okay.
It was me. You're welcome.
Okay. Take your kudos where you get it. That's all right. That's all right. All right. Does anybody else have anything for Sam before we finish? All right. Well, as Rob said, let's thank him.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.
Thank you all very much for the time.
For all of your things, and we will make sure that we email out, besides the slide presentation, a link to the survey and the phone numbers, so that everybody has that information from that specific slide, so people can respond. We thank you.
And Matt, tell your wife I say hi.
Oh, well, we still got more. That's just Sam.
Okay.
Our next thing, I'm going to switch up the next two items. So I'm going to go into the Olmsted Community Integration Plan, and I will let them explain it. But I am excited and proud to say that the first time, and I hear it maybe for the first time in this country, every state is required and area is required to have an Olmsted Community Integration Plan about getting people with disabilities out of nursing homes, institutions, and living into the community. And for the first time, transportation is being considered a part of the plan to ensure people can live in the community here in our DC plan. And to share about that, we have Matt McCullough and Susie Resper McFadden from the Office of Disability Rights. So you two can take that away however you want to do this.
Good evening, everyone. So my name is Matt McCullough, for those who haven't been able to meet me yet. So Susie and I work for ODR. ODR is the EDA compliance office for the district government. And we are also responsible for the Homestead Community Integration Plan. Homestead is dealing with a Supreme Court case that occurred back in 1999 when two people from Georgia challenged the state of Georgia, seeing that, well, they were people with displays and they were calling place in institutions because they were receiving services for their behavioral health. And they challenged the state, saying that they wanted to be out in the community. Not only that, it was their right to be in the community with the appropriate community supports and services. And the Supreme Court with the ruled in the favor of these two people. And under the ADA, Well, the way that I describe the ADA is based on 2 words: community integration. That's what the ADA is. And so, the DC government is currently creating a new homestead plan. We've had a 3-year plan starting with 2017 up to 2020. And now we need to create a new 3-year plan. And the 3-year plan will focus on 3 areas: employment, healthcare and wellness, and housing. And so as all of you know, without those 3 elements for us supporting us in the community, we want to have a good quality of life. All of us want to have housing, a safe place to live. We want to have access to our healthcare and wellness supports, and we also need to work. And so I'm currently leading this charge, and I want to thank Caesar for representing DDOT in this endeavor as well. That we have really emphasized that we need to really have the appropriate stakeholders at the table. If you take a look at the last homestead plan, we mentioned housing, but in all reality, in all honesty, we didn't have the appropriate housing stakeholders, such as the Department of Human Services. DHS is responsible for all the housing waivers, legally all the housing waivers that the DC government has. We need folks from the DC Housing Authority to take part in this planning, and we also have the Department of Housing and Community Development. So currently we have 3 major partners representing the housing element of the homestead plan. And so we're also focusing on the fact that without proper health care and employment, people cannot have a good quality of life. But the question is, how do people get to their doctor appointments, to their jobs, to their getting home to point A to point B? Well, it depends on what DDOT offers us in the community. Without DDOT, without transportation, we want to be able to access any of the private supports and services that we rely on to have a good quality of life. And so I really appreciate Caesar for taking leadership and trying to represent DDOT in the homestead plan. And we are currently drafting the homestead plan for the next 3 years, and I'm currently waiting on certain metrics, outcomes from DDOT, and I look forward to that. But you can learn more about homestead through ODR's website. We have a webpage solely dedicated on how has the district government attempted to make sure that people that are receiving services through the Department of Behavioral Health, that they're not staying at St. Elizabeth's, Keelan, or is there a pathway from them from the hospital, from St. E's Hospital, back into the community, and to have the appropriate supports and services, and stuff like that. So this plan is very important to all of us. All of us are at risk of having a quality of life change from one day to the next. Like, I realize that I do have a good quality of life right now, but something could happen to me tomorrow, which would make me would make me require me to seek more services and more supports from the government agencies that support us all. And so I realized that this plan has a very important purpose for all of us, that this plan, in all honesty, impacts all of us at the end of the day. And I'm grateful that we have metrics coming from the Department for Hired Vehicles, from DC Public Libraries, from H. Friendly. So the reason why I'm bringing all of this up is that that the district government agencies are starting to realize that they cannot work in silos in terms of serving all of us as citizens with disabilities or senior citizens or the aging population in general. That the agencies have to work together in order to make sure that all of us have a good quality of life. And so this homestead plan is starting to open these agencies' eyes more. And Caesar, do you want to speak to why you think that this plan is important to DDOT and the other agencies, please?
Sorry, muted. There you go. Good evening, everybody. Again, as Mr. Director McCullough mentioned, the Olmsted community integration plan. We're proposing including I'm currently drafting a small transportation domain to assist with the other 3 domains. It's basically a little piece that helps the other 3 pieces get along and connect all together and make sure that we have a proper community integration for those that need it and for persons with disabilities and all the above in regards to the Olmsted. So we're currently in the drafting stage. It's going to go through the process inside DDOT, and then Director McCullough will get it. But we wanted to bring it to the table to the MAAC to hear feedback, to see if we need to in order to make sure that goals are equal, the goals that we're pertaining to put in the plan are equal. Currently, we don't have a drafted goal. I currently don't have a drafted goal completely. I wanted to hear feedback. I wanted to hear from you, Case, and the council members and the public here in this platform of what can be the goals and what do you expect to be some of the goals that may trigger Olmsted community integration. So that's pretty much sums it up. I don't want to expand more. I want to hear from the community. I'm here to hear from the public. So, yeah. Madam Chair.
Okay. So this is to make sure that, to live functionally in the community, you need to be able to get to places you need to go to. So what are things you think we can do to improve accessibility of transportation for people with disabilities in the community? And these are goals that we'll be working on over the next few years. And do people just raise your hand if you'd like to say something or make a suggestion or a comment or give input? Sure, Rob, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the beginning of her second term address, her speech, Mayor Bowser was saying she wants DC to become a 30-minute city where you could get anywhere in DC with the 30 minutes. So I think it may be valuable to include in our plan if it is not already in your draft.
I like that idea. It was in the, well, you guys were here. So as part of what DDOT is working on too, to improving the number of places wherever you're living, you can get to in 30 minutes from where you live. I think that speaks to the essence of what we're trying to allow people to be integrated into the community if they can get to places they don't have to take all day. Any other thoughts or comments? I'd like to mention, and I don't know exactly, I'm just throwing this out. One of the ways a lot of people with disabilities have gotten used to is the taxi alternative to Metro Access. And unfortunately, the pandemic has really decimated the taxi industry. And we have so many fewer cabs, and especially so many fewer wheelchair cabs. And so anything that we could put in there is to increase the access, any incentives or programs to get more wheelchair cabs and just more cabs in that program and providing that service would be helpful. And that's a change to keep people who are in the community, because I think Olmsted too, once you're in the community, you need to stay in the community.
True.
You need to look at services or problems so that you end up not being able to sustain yourself. So I think that's important.
True. And that's part of the reason why we wanted the Department for Hire Vehicles involved in this plan, because speaking to the alternatives, that we realized that towards the very community, a lot of people relied on the wheelchair accessible vehicles, and that program should stay around as much as possible. Basically, it comes down to proper funding, and but you also realize that program represents a good quality of life for almost everybody. And so that's the reason why ODR reached out to Jerry and Winnie Clatcher, who works for the Department for Hire Vehicles, and you'll see in language the metrics that they wanted to include in the home sale plan. So and Caesar was at that meeting too. So like I said, we're trying our best to really form this proper collaboration and partnerships among the other agencies that should be interconnected with each other, so we can continue to improve the quality of our services that all of us enjoy and access.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, I see Heather and then Thomas.
All right.
Go ahead, Heather.
When Buddy and I were doing transportation options trainings over a couple of years, a while back, one of the things we talked about a lot is how people self-identify as somebody older, a senior, and how they identify as somebody with a disability. And there's a tremendous range, but I've been able to confirm over the last 3 or 4 years that there are many older adults who use walkers, who use canes, who would not use the term disabled to identify themselves. Yeah. And so for those people, the plain language approach that the federal government uses, especially on the NIH site, is tremendously important. Sam and his colleagues have been very good in their presentations in trying to downplay the transportation lingo, but it still lingers. And so I think it's really hard, because a plan as big as MAACDC is, it has to have industry language in a sense. But at the same time, if you want people to participate, somehow you have to find a middle ground. And I think that the part that you're working on, Cesar, I don't know how it could be introduced, but something that addresses the accessibility of language, so that people, especially people who are not digitally privileged, can access transportation services and information.
Sure. So Heather, I wanted to quickly address that, and Caesar address this as well, that we fully understand, ODR fully understands that the aging population may not truly identify themselves as people with disabilities, and so that's part of the reason why ODR has reached out to the Age Friendly Task Force, and Gail Cohn is the coordinator for each friendly task force. And so I've had conversations with Gail Cohn stating that we fully realize that a lot of aging folks may not really identify with what we're trying to do, but in all reality, the aging population is also at risk of being institutionalized as they grow older. And so this plan is for them because we want our aging population, our grandparents, our and seniors to stay in the community as long as they can with the appropriate support and services. And so that's part of the reason why I'm trying my best to represent ODR and age friendly within this plan too, because without age friendly, I realize that this plan may not resonate with the aging population unless age friendly actually supports this plan too. Thank you, Heather. Thomas.
Thomas, and then Thomas will be Rachel. Go ahead.
Right. Okay. My question is this: when it comes to the CAP service, you know, those of us that have Metro Access, we could use Transport DC.
Yep.
Now, is Transport DC going to start having transportation for the whole month, or is still just going to the 15th? Because like with Metro Access, you know, Metro Access is a planned service.
Yep.
So something comes up one day and we need to go somewhere for a family emergency or whatever, we can't call a Metro Access for that because that's a planned service.
True.
So is anybody thinking about Transport DC? Because Transport DC largely helps everyone, but it helps people in wheelchair users or what have you. So we could get a wheelchair cab. So have anybody thought about that, please?
Yeah. So as you know, ever since Transport DC has been in existence, Thomas, it always comes down to appropriate funding. And so I know Jerry and Wendy Clutter, I can't remember Jerry's last name. I always refer to him as Jerry. So but Jerry is very fully understands the overall importance of what Transport DC plays in the community, and they have always tried to make Transport DC as flexible as possible. However, something's changed, particularly as the year goes on, and depending on the usage of the program throughout the year, you may need to cut back services based on the funding streams that are fully available to them. And I know for a fact it makes Jerry and Wendy really sad when they need to make program changes towards the end of the year, but it's a program where they need to continue getting local funding, but not only local funding, and they're also dependent on federal funding too. So it definitely takes some really good budgeting on terms of funding that program. And it doesn't always work out, Thomas, the way you want to, but they do their very best at the end of the day. I wish Jerry or Wendy was here. So, but I know they work very hard to simply sustain that program. But I know it's not perfect, but there's always areas of improvement. So keep showing your leadership and saying you need to do more, Thomas. We really appreciate using your voice. Thank you.
Yes.
Rachel, how are you doing, Rachel?
Hi, Director McCullough. It's good to see you again.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you.
Thank you. So here's my question. With such a focus on bus transit, I rarely ever hear anyone speaking about accessibility of actual bus stops, whether it's sidewalks or having benches available, safety. And I've been on a lot of transportation calls with all of the Move DC, and I just never hear anyone talking about this. And I know there's a lot of bus stops. I live across the street from one where there's no bench, and there's a lot of us in the disability community that live nearby. And so you also have a sidewalk that doesn't have clearance. So people are having to stand for long times, or their wheelchairs don't have enough room. So I was wondering if that can also be included in a lot of these plans, because I just don't hear anyone talking about certain elements like that.
So you will appreciate this, Rachel. I'm going to point that question to Caesar, because Dina has control over the bus stops. So ODR did an accessibility assessment several years ago, and I would say like 75% of the bus stops at that time, several years ago, were accessible, but like I said, there's always room for improvement. So Caesar, would you speak to what DDOT is planning to do dealing with bus stops, please?
I like your number better than mine. You said 78. I got 72. So, okay, I like your number better than mine. We have done some major improvements on bus stops, and that's why it's been quiet, Ms. Gass, because we have done so many improvements for a time. At some point in time, we had 834 bus stops that were non-compliant, and this is coming back to 2009. We have reduced this number almost to 200. So out of 3,600 total that we have bus stops that 3,400 bus stops that we have in the district. So that's why it's been so quiet. Yes, we do have some places here and there because we did roadway alignments or modifications that the bus stops got relocated, and WMATA did not advise us they were relocated.
Oh, okay.
And therefore, we don't know if we are compliant or not on those specific spots. But overall, we got a pretty good number, and we always keep track, believe it or not. This year for fiscal year 2020, we've had 117 bus stops within our MAACDC plan, and we improved 34 of them. The rest of the 117 did not. The rest of that number did not need improvements. They were compliant. So I do agree that if you need a bench, that's a whole different ballgame compared to making a bus stop compliant when it comes to boarding alignment. So if you are in the need of a bench, we do have a process, and you can file in through 311 that you would like a bench, and we will evaluate that as well.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very helpful. That's very good to hear. I was wondering why I had all these meetings. So wait, you got to think about every aspect here.
Great.
Yeah, and that's the key. And sorry to interrupt again. Sorry, Director. And that's the key about this transportation domain. That's why I'm still on draft. I wanted to hear from everybody in the table on the MAAC before providing something to Director McCullough and, of course, my boss, who's on the line. I wanted to make sure that I'm capturing everything. And what I've heard from everybody is the multimodal connection is important. So anything that I write on my draft is the multimodal needs to be advised and needs to be connected, including one of the key and biggest topics from the MAAC, which is pickup drop-off zones, which is curbside management. So I'll be focusing the draft and the goals and the goals for the transportation domain on those aspects, which are on DDOT's domain. I'm sorry. So because Department for Hire Vehicles got mentioned.
Yeah.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Rachel. Are there any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
I'm not seeing any hands either, Matt. Did I hear somebody? Oh,
Buddy, go ahead, buddy. And you're muted, buddy.
Yes, I just wanted to add to Heather's comment. I work with a lot of seniors, and the thing that I'm finding is that seniors do not or will not associate themselves with those invisible disabilities, such as vision and glaucoma and hearing. And I think that's where the rub is. They just do not consider themselves as having a disability if they have glaucoma, or if they find that their hearing is very poor. So that's sort of a thing that is difficult to get seniors to realize that they may qualify for some programs if they would think in terms of those issues being a disability.
True, true. And so, but I think as a community, we need to find a way to better communicate how people can simply be connected to the appropriate services and programs without focusing on their limitations.
Yes.
Because people age naturally, and they don't know when they may need those services or not. So we need to start changing the overall conversation and simply understanding that people should simply be aware of these services that are available within the community, within the government, and if they need to seek them out in time, so be it, but they should be aware that they are available to them.
That's right, Matt. Thanks a lot. You're absolutely right. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Matt. I think that's it. I don't see anyone else's hand raised. I appreciate you coming on and sharing that, and
No
being
problem.
and Caesar also being willing to get input from the community. So we appreciate you. And moving on to the last item on our agenda is the upcoming performance hearings. And just a little information, we are probably, it happens in most cities, but in DC, we have the opportunity to go and speak to city council members, the chairs of different committees about different issues. They have a performance hearing on every one of the government agencies that provide work on our behalf. And we have an opportunity to go in February to speak to the chairperson that chairs the Committee on Transportation and the Environment, which is Council Member Mary Che. And we have an opportunity, and all of the citizens in DC have that opportunity to provide direct testimony about what they think is going well and what DDOT is doing and what we appreciate and what we would like to see more of. And this is our opportunity to have a voice.
I think you're frozen, Madam Chair.
Yes, Madam Chair is frozen on my side too. Hopefully she comes back soon.
Yeah.
Maybe she could try disconnecting and then calling back in.
It seems like Madam Chair has a problem with her connection. It was coming in and out. I do not, unfortunately, I do not have a vote.
She's back.
And the vice chair is not here. Oh,
She's back.
Miss Case is here.
Okay.
You unmute, Madam Chair. You unmute.
I'm sorry, I have a difficult connection.
Oh, okay.
So,
no problem.
What I wanted to hear from people is the MAAC is going to have an opportunity to present our perspective on the work that DDOT does for that hearing. And I wanted to give people, including our council members, an opportunity to give voice to what kinds of things they think we need to include. And we need to give voice to that are things that we value, we want change about, and anything that we want to say they are doing well. So in order, before we write that testimony, we want to hear from you all as to what you think are important issues to make sure we bring up. And I wanted to open the floor to all of you and just raise your hand and let me know what feedback you have about that. Don't all raise your hand. Thomas, I heard you. I'm going to give people time to think about it.
Yes, I think we need a little time to
think about it. And
yes.
Thomas, you just mentioned something to Matt that you would like to see be improved with the taxis or be changed. Do you want to mention that again briefly?
Yes, with the taxi service, we got Transport DC, but that only goes from the 1st to the 15th if you have Metro Access use. And like with Metro Access, that's a planned service. That's not a service that you call the same day and get it. You know, you got to plan that. So my thing was, could we have a better thing with Transport DC and more cabs for people who wheelchair users? Because like things happen for us too, like it happens for everybody else. Things comes up and we need to be there. So is anything going to be set up to help us be able to get around better than we are now? Because when you're a wheelchair user, it's tough trying to get a cab.
Right. And he's right. After the 15th, the cabs are only available to take people to work, to the doctor, or to a pharmacy. And any other trips that might come up, you can't use Transport DC with it. So it has to be a planned trip with Metro Access if that's your mode of travel. Rob, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to make sure that we ask in the correct hearing, because from my understanding, in past years, there were 2 different hearings. There was a performance oversight hearing where we gave our opinion on how DDOT is doing with what has a budget oversight hearing where we can ask for the DDOT budget to be dedicated to more of this, like the flexibility of on-demand transport services.
Right. So you're right. There are 2 different hearings, but it is my experience that hearing in the performance hearing, letting City Council know there's a need for more funds, because by the time we get to the budget hearing, there is a budget that we are commenting about. So this, sometimes we bring in funding things ahead of time. So when that budget is being created, they are aware of some of our issues. But I understand your point. But unfortunately, by the time we have the budget hearing, the mayor's budget is out there. And that what we're doing is commenting on that. So.
Now, Madam Chair, do we have the dates of those, of both of those hearings, the oversight and the budget hearing?
I do not have the budget. Caesar might have it. The performance hearing, I believe, is February 26th.
Okay.
I do have it on my calendar. I'm not.
Okay. Can you send that to us, those dates? When you...
Yes, please, Caesar. Send that to me.
Caesar, do you know when the budget hearing is?
In
front of you.
I got February 26th for the performance oversight.
Okay.
And oh my God, I'm missing the other one. I apologize.
That's okay. All right. Okay.
It's probably not till March, so.
That's right.
I believe it's March or April. I apologize for
Okay,
not. It's
that's
ending
good.
of March, beginning of April. I apologize for not having that for you.
Okay, that's good.
It's okay, we can get that out to you, though. We can check on that.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have that on my calendar for April 26th.
April 26th.
Oh, thank you, Samuel. Okay.
Okay,
We can put that in our minutes and that way it will be shared with everyone. So thank you.
great.
Appreciate that. Other comments about that we want to let DDOT know are priorities for us. I heard Rachel talk about bus stop accessibility, and Caesar saying there's been great improvement, but still places where a bench would be appreciated by people with disabilities, to encourage them to be able to tolerate waiting for the bus. So I hear that. Rob?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In addition to everything you said, I want to request that we extend the streetcar east of the river. That should be part of our testimony in addressing the lack of equity east of the river.
Okay. The streetcar. All right, east of the river. He certainly, we saw in his maps that the areas of greatest need for transportation are definitely Ward 5s and 7 and 8. So I like that idea.
Fair warning, we are in conceptual design on that one.
Okay.
So we're moving fast on that one too. So thank you, Rob.
Okay. What else?
And Madam Chair, we always want street repair and street maintenance, sidewalk repair and maintenance.
Okay. And Shayna's taking our notes for our meeting, and that'll help me too. Rob?
Hello, Caesar. I thought in July 2020, there was a group of council members who tried to divide the streetcar, and from my understanding, they are trying to do it again this year.
Yep, my understanding from
the entire streetcar, sorry, the extension.
Yeah, my understanding is that we're planning on extending. I don't know if it's been on hold or not, but we are hoping to extend that, and we have. I believe. Sorry, we are in conceptual phase. I do not see a hold on it, and we are working hard to get that moving forward, at least in DDOT that I'm aware of.
Caesar, is that extension that when you say conceptualized, I'm not sure exactly what that means. Maybe you can explain that.
So one thing is planning phase, and the other one is conceptual. The conceptual phase is basically between the planning phase, which everybody knows where the streetcar is going to be expanded, and the design phase. So basically, it's the middle ground where we start kind of sketching on a plan sheet where the streetcar is going to go and how it's going to be aligned and where the stations are going to be stopped. But it will be at the end of the conceptual, it will be a 30% design phase that everybody internally does an engineering review on it, and then we can provide feedback, and then it gets on hold. It stays on hold there for a little while, and it moves from, once they get the funding, it moves to the design phase, and it moves accelerated. It goes to a straight design build. So it gets one more commenting phase on it or revisions that were made, and then it moves to construction almost. So that's what conceptual means. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure everybody understands. And the last question, and Heather is next. I just wanted to be clear. Is what they have planned include an extension in towards 7 and 8? That's what Rob's suggesting, I believe, east of the river. So does it include what they've currently conceptualizing?
Yep.
It does include that.
The understanding is to move it along Benning Road all the way through Minnesota Avenue and keep going up. So it's trying to connect east up the river with Union Station. So doing the full corridor, in other words, the way it's supposed to be.
Okay. Heather, you had raised your hand.
Yep.
It looks newly up, no? No, okay. Helen, did you have your hand up? I can't hear you, Helen. Are you saying no? Okay. Anybody else want to comment or share? Go ahead, Rob.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To make sure everyone knows, the streetcar extension only goes into Ward 7. The current plan has nothing for Ward 8. So if anybody has other ideas for what we can advocate for Ward 8, or somebody in Ward 8 who we can follow, that would be helpful too.
Okay, Rob, I appreciate that. And I think that that's part of our responsibility as to look at the whole city and ensure that there's transportation for everyone, and especially where the greatest transportation needs exist. I think we advocate for it. So I appreciate that. I'm looking to see is, there are the usual things. It is my intention to bring up our letter about autonomous vehicles and ensuring that the pilot includes that the pilot vehicles include accessibility features. And because we've had years of experience where, oh, the accessibility will come later and later, and then once they've designed something and put money into it, it costs a lot more money to adapt it to accessibility. So I think that's part of what we want to add and share with Councilmember Che. Rob?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you. You have to realize I want to include that in our testimony too, for sure. Autonomous vehicles, none of them should be allowed in DC unless they are accessible.
I agree. And we want to include that in our testimony. And of course, as we are always talking about the trade-offs for the curb and curb management, which I know they're working on and they're solving, but it continues to be more and more bike lanes. And we want to just make sure that there are plans around managing that curb. However, and one of the things that we had talked about in, I think, our last meeting, maybe it was the one before, was the possibility of hosting some kind of conference or meeting with the bicycle and the pedestrian advisory councils with the MAAC to have joint discussions about what are solutions, because I think that those are all the people, bicycles and pedestrians and us, are all the people sort of vying for the curb, including freight and TNCs, and the possibility of creating some kind of conference or meeting to further discuss that jointly with the other advisory councils might be something that we promote in our testimony. What do people think about that? Rob?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support the idea of a 3-council meeting around the subject of curb management.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. I agree, buddy.
Okay. Anything else that we have? Anyone else? And this is not just council members, people from the public. If any of you have comments or anything you want to add, please feel free to jump in and share. Not seeing any. We will work out this testimony and share it with council members and get approval before that date. And any council members are allowed, are happy. We support any individuals and council members to give their own testimony. Whether it's just written or they want to be there to give testimony virtually.
Okay.
If you're interested, anyone, you can send an email to accessibledc@gmail.com. And if you think of other things you think we should include in our testimony, the accessibledc@gmail.com is a place that you can write your feedback and share that with us at that time.
Okay, great. Okay.
Okay, so the last and only thing is public comment, which I think we've given people plenty of options, but is there any last public comment before we adjourn? Okay, seeing none, do I?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Caesar.
Before I forget, you made on our January meeting, you made a question and I wanted to provide an answer because I just received the answer. You asked the question on how many intersections have been improved with pedestrian push buttons and APS devices. In fiscal year 20, they were 13 intersections improved for APS devices and push buttons. That does not include leading pedestrian intervals improvements, LPIs improvements, which those happen on a computer sitting down by the engineering team, which is also an advantage. That sums up a total of 104 push buttons, 104 APS devices installed, just in case.
Good to know. And I think Phil was definitely asking that question, how many more? So 13 new ones. And did you say 102 total?
104 total APS devices. That number is approximate. It might go up because some of the intersections are 3 road intersections rather than 2. Example, Rhode Island Avenue is one of them that we tackle. And I just wanted to provide that number because there was the question raised, and I know Phil is not here, but since we're recording now, we have an answer and it's on the meeting minutes.
Okay.
Great.
That's good to know, Caesar, and I appreciate you getting back to us.
No problem.
And you being thorough. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Madam President, I move that we adjourn.
Do I hear a second? I'll second it.
That's right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Otherwise, you can hang out by yourself. All right, everyone. I